to be on the same stage with Will Wright and four incredibly talented members of his design team is an honor for me. And I think that with as much publicity and awareness about Spore and about Will, the opportunity to have him and his team talk about the process and the importance of team gets at the core of what making games is about today. So Will, it's all yours.
Thanks. Can you hear me? Oh. I can hear me. Okay. So I just showed you a little movie, which is kind of Spore, the overview. You probably have some familiarity with it. This is an idea that I kind of came up with many years ago that for me originally was kind of sim everything. And we got kind of sick of using sim on everything. So it kind of evolved into Spore. And, just kind of roughly, the idea started thematically as I was really curious, could we make a game based around the powers of 10 idea, going from the very small to the very large. At the same time, could we mix, very different genres together into a singular player experience? And then could we leverage the content that we saw players making in The Sims, which, to me represented this incredibly powerful force. And we were giving them fairly primitive tools in The Sims, but yet they were astounding us at every turn, with what they were doing. But as I started going down this path, and started thinking about just all these different scales that we might want to address, and the gameplay and what the players would be making and all that, it really dawned on me that we were dealing with a huge amount of design. Which you normally think of like you make a game, you design it, you have some designers working over here, you have programmers, artists, and the design component roughly had been fairly similar in games I had worked on previously. And on this game, there were so many things we were trying to do on the design side, both with the editors and the genre mixing, the player creativity, the pollination, that I had to build basically an extraordinary design team and deal with a very distributed design process. A lot of games, they basically have a very singular design vision and a singular like lead designer that really makes all the decisions. And there was no way I could handle that on a project of this scope. And at the same time, when people, see the press on Spore, the hype, etc., it's usually just, about me. It's all about me. And that's not the way it really works. Really, I'm, one cog in this big team. And I wanted to give people an insight kind of into how much design gets distributed amongst the team members. And so that's kind of why we're here today. I brought my main designers from the team to kind of talk about different components. And each one looks at the game in a very different way. And it's kind of interesting the way these kind of different visions of the way the game should be get kind of negotiated between us. So basically we have this huge task, and part of it was how do we approach this? And from the very beginning, we kind of looked at all the different levels that we want to deal with in the game. Each one is kind of a separate design slice that we'd explore. Within each of these, we had kind of different breadths of things like the environments we're dealing with, the stylistic approach, the cultural, strategic diversity that the player was going to encounter. And then for each one of these, we wanted to know how deep was the gameplay. And this is really kind of like the design cube that as a team we had to explore. Initially, we kind of came into this cube, and we had a very small region that we had done a lot of initial prototypes in. And this is kind of the way we had viewed it in terms of we were going to explore this design space. And this is the first part of the design space we kind of dropped down into. And then we had actually a plan for, basically, first we would explore the breadth, both stylistically, gameplay-wise, etc., and then go down the depth. How complicated did each level want to be? Because with a game like this, you don't want it, like the civilization level, to be as deep as Civ 4. You want it to be a little bit lighter because it also has to unify with the other game levels. And then the scope, how much stuff, this is the type of game where there's no end to the amount of features, things you can decide to approach in the game. And, scoping, which is really where we're at right now. We have a million ideas that we'd love to get in the game, but really we can get 10%. And what are the right 10% of the ideas that we're actually going to ship in our thing? So really, I want to introduce you to my design team today and give you a sense of the way we explored this space. Now, the first person I want to introduce you to is Ocean Quigley. And to me, he's my art director, but he actually, on the team, really represents the scientist on the team. His knowledge of science is amazing. And he approaches kind of the artistic stuff with a very scientific eye. The next person that actually joined my team, and this is kind of in chronological order of when I brought these team members on, was Chaim Gingold, who was at first an intern for me. Many years ago, I got a call from Janet Murray at Georgia Tech saying this is the best student she'd had in 20 years, and I had to take him as an intern. And so I became one of his thesis advisors. He was an intern for me, and I had him doing a lot of the initial prototyping on Spore. And he turned out to be great at prototyping in a very toy-like aesthetic sense. And so I've been assigning kind of stereotypes to each of these people. And by the way, they hate these stereotypes, so feel free to tease them about it later. Next was Jenna Chalmers, who had worked on a lot of the Sims games with me, Sims Online, etc. And I decided to put her in charge of the space game, which really is the most epic part of the game, the most open-ended part of Spore. And you'll see later on that the way she approaches things, she has these very elaborate plans with all these millions of moving little parts that intricately fit together just right. And so she's the mastermind on the team. And Alex Hutchinson, last one here that we brought on the team. And he's kind of the cowboy in the group.
I hate my nickname.
Yeah, he loves this, by the way. And this is no reflection on his documentation skills. But, the way he approaches design is very much, more intuitive, off the cuff, going around getting consensus. But and he's right now working on the core levels, really, the deep gameplay the player's experiencing. And we actually have another designer who just recently retired from the team, who's not here, Chris Trottier. And her role was really more of an architect, kind of making all these different visions work together on the same design, bringing all these things into unification. So, and my role as lead designer really is more traffic cop than anything else. I have all these people coming with ideas. They have to be resolved. We have to come to consensus. We have to make the thing feel like a unified experience to the player, which is really hard when you're mixing all these genres. Now, starting with Ocean, one of the central problems that I think, the art director on this project faces is the fact that in gameplay, you really want a certain amount of abstraction. The player wants to kind of understand what the units are, what the relevant kind of borders, boundaries are. But yet at the same time, you want something that looks beautiful up on screen. And the players are making a lot of these things that, have functional meaning. You have to be able to look at this and say, what is its function? But at the same time, want to blend in very smoothly in the world. So I'm going to kind of pass the mic over to Ocean and go through some of his early process.
Hi, everybody. So let's see. This project is unlike any other project I've ever worked on before. And in all the previous games, I have a team of artists. They're competent. They make the stuff we tell them to make. We put it in the game, and we're done. I mean, maybe some programmers have to do some stuff. And in this game, by contrast, we basically have to make the parts that let the players make stuff, and we have to put together the systems that give them the illusion of competence. And so what we're looking at here are, first we had to give some sense of what we wanted, the kind of range, the breadth of creatures that we wanted to have in the game are. So these are some examples of, we got a concept artist, we said, make a bunch of crazy alien creatures, and then we have to deconstruct those creatures into parts. Because the player is not dealing with the entire creature, they're dealing with the little parts of creatures that they snap together in various ways. So here you're taking a look at all these different parts. We have to figure out a way to put those parts together into kind of coherent creatures and do all the things that you would do with the creature. And then to speak to the illusion of competence issue, we've got a problem in that content in games is really good now. I mean, if you look at the kind of the state-of-the-art characters with state-of-the-art animation, they're really good. I mean, the texturing is beautiful, the animation's rich. We have to give something that's cleanly stylized, that looks sweet, but that doesn't require basically a player to be a rigger, a modeler, a texture artist, a UV painter, an animator. And so that basically drove some of the stylistic decisions we made. That previous shot that Will showed just a second ago was part of an early problem that we had. We were trying to figure out, do we want to make this game realistic? Do we want to make it look like
science book.
Look like a science book? Do we want to make it look like using plausible illustrations of real aliens? And fundamentally, that just turned out to be too hard.
Well, it also ended up animating really badly. So if you had someone who made a dog and it really did look like a dog but didn't move like a dog, then the illusion of competence was...
It would make children cry.
Yes.
I think
This is kind of an early split on the team, too. We basically had the team split up into the cute team and the science team. So I think Ocean and I were kind of on the science team.
Yeah, I've been dragged kicking and screaming over to, let's make things cute to conceal our flaws. And
everyone wants, no one's going to say no to big eyes. If you put big eyes on something, everybody's going to love it.
so,
Yeah, which we proved out in focus tests. It's amazing. You put big eyes and they blink and all the little squeal.
so we did a bunch of work